Voth. Just over a week ago, a man threw an innocent 5-year-old child off a balcony at the Mall of America in an attempt to kill him. Despite the atrociousness of this crime, this man cannot be tried with the death penalty. We have all heard about the atrocities of this story in the last week. In addition, on a daily basis, our news and social media outlets are filled with stories of horrific crimes where the punishment just does not seem severe enough. Minnesota legislature should reinstate Minnesota's death penalty. First, I will be talking about some of the reasons the death penalty is necessary for Minnesota, and second, I will be discussing some possible solutions for its reinstatement. First, let's begin by discussing some of the origins of Minnesota's death penalty and some problems surrounding its non-existence. Minnesota's death penalty history goes all the way back to the early 1900s. William Williams was convicted of 2 counts of first-degree murder after killing a mother and her 16-year-old son. He was sentenced to death by hanging in 1906. It took Williams 15 minutes to die of strangulation after the executioners failed to take into account the stretched length of his rope. Nowadays, this would obviously not be a problem, for there are much more efficient means of carrying out the death penalty. But in 1911, Representative George McKenzie formally passed a bill to abolish Minnesota's death penalty. According to the Death Penalty Information Center, which is an organization that has specialized in studying death penalty cases since 1990, in their article, Minnesota's Legislative Activity, published in 2019, there have been 23 attempts since 1911 to reinstate Minnesota's death penalty. Most of these have come after high-profile murders that shocked the state of Minnesota. The last time the death penalty was brought to national attention in Minnesota was in 2003. 2 men from Minneapolis were charged with the brutal slayings of 3 innocent people after an attempted break-in. According to the Brainerd Dispatch, which has been a daily newspaper for the Brainerd area since 1881, in their article Indictments in Long Prairie, published in 2005, these men were charged with 10 counts of first-degree murder. These horrific killings brought renewed attention to Minnesota's death penalty. Shortly after, the most recent bill was proposed to Minnesota legislature. According to Tom Scheck, an investigative reporter for American Public Media, in his article, Death Penalty Gets First Hearing, published in 2004, many people were actually in support of this bill, including, at the time, Governor Tim Pawlenty. But despite the many new ideas that provided for a much more efficient death penalty process, the bill was rejected in 2004. Now that we have discussed some of the reasons Minnesota is in need of a death penalty, let's discuss some possible solutions for its reinstatement. Minnesota legislation must reinstate Minnesota's death penalty. The bill in 2004 was very much steered in the right direction. DNA testing was a big addition to the bill, and lethal injection as the only form of execution. These restrictions are an important way that we should reinstate Minnesota's death penalty. According to Dan Deming, manager of a Kansas radio station and former Reno, Kansas City commissioner, in his article, It's Time to Fix the Death Penalty Appeals Process, published in 2014, Kansas proposed a bill that would lower the max time on death row to 3.5 years. Lawyers would have 180 days to formally file for an appeal, and the committee would have 180 days to formally decide if the person should be executed. This is a big problem because right now many inmates are spending 20+ years on death row. Lowering the time to 3.5 years would still allow for efficient time to review evidence and would make the process much more cost efficient for each state. According to Brian Lehman, senior editor of State Government and Politics for the Montgomery Advisor, in his article, Approved Changes to the Death Penalty Appeals Process, published in 2014, victims' families in Alabama testified that the long appeals process makes it hard for them to recover from this tragedy. Shortening the appeals process would make it much more cost efficient and less stressful for the victims' families. We must implement these solutions, for then we can reinstate Minnesota's death penalty. First, we discussed some of the reasons Minnesota is in need of a death penalty, and second, we discussed some more efficient solutions for reinstatement of Minnesota's death penalty. Minnesota legislation should reinstate Minnesota's death penalty. You all soon will be, or already are, able to vote on an important issue like this. That 5-year-old boy thrown off the balcony has a life and future ahead of him that he very well may not be able to live. Let us bring the man responsible to an equal justice by reinstating Minnesota's death penalty.